What's going down, everybody? It's your boy Jay Rich, back to bring you your MLB props for June the 1st. I can't believe it's June already. 2 months of baseball already gone by the wayside, but 2 months of data, and that is very important for these prop bets. So let's quickly review what we did yesterday. So this is the board that I had yesterday. We talked about Kyle Farmer and how I wasn't taking him up against Michael Wacha. He did not hit. Paul Goldschmidt came through. Starlin Marte, who I didn't talk about, but when I reran it, realized I missed the Mets. So Starlin Marte was actually a core play and did hit a bomb, so he went over. Jorge Soler, the game was postponed. Joshua Meter did not play. Mookie Betts, man, sucked that he let me down, but I'm wearing the jersey today. People who can't see, I am wearing the jersey, hoping to capture some of that magic. When I was wearing the jersey, the Red Sox were playing very well. Now, they did not make the model today, but they are very close. But I'm not trying to push it. I'm going to let them do their thing. Let them slowly, work in Cincinnati. They're up against Hunter Green. We'll see what happens. But Ke'Bryan Hayes did hit. I did tell you guys, if anyone, I wanted to play Ke'Bryan Hayes against Julio Urias, and he did come through for us. Randy Arozarena did not, up against Martin Perez. No surprise there. That's why I told you to fade him. And Patrick Wisdom actually did come through. He had a home run in the 8th inning and had a couple, I think he had a hit even beyond that. So he did do surprisingly well. Now, the list for today is much shorter, but will be just as effective. I think there's a lot of things to like in this slate, but more importantly, there's going to be some good picks, and there's a lot of reasons why I like these picks, and it's a shorter list, so you can just mix and match these plays, and I think you'll be in very good shape. So let's dive into it right now. So these are the guys I'm looking at: Jose Ramirez, Paul Goldschmidt, Jock Peterson, and Austin Hayes. I wanted to bring up their actual stats first so you could take a look, see how they're performing overall. And so you see, this is their stats over their last 14 days. You see Jose Ramirez on a tear right now, averaging 16.64 fantasy points per game, over 3 total bases per game, over an RBI and a half per game, and 10 extra base hits in his last 11 games, while only striking out twice and has 4 steals. Again, Paul Goldschmidt, another guy who was in the mix and match because he is on fire right now, averaging almost 2 hits per game, 3.5 total bases per game, over an RBI and a half per game, but striking out a little bit more. Jock Peterson, who's playing surprisingly well for the Giants, batting cleanup, and Austin Hayes for the Baltimore Orioles. But let's actually get into the numbers of these guys and what we're looking at overall. You see Paul Goldschmidt, top guy as far as edge goes, up against Yu Darvish, has a decent history against Yu Darvish, hits 300 against him with 1 home run, which is good, 27 at-bats. That's promising. That's what I like to see. It's not spectacular, but for a player as hot as Paul Goldschmidt, I am more than fine with it. Then you get into Jose Ramirez. He's got a good matchup up against Brad Keller, who he doesn't hit particularly well, which is surprising because Ramirez, if the one thing I can count on, he hits a lot of guys really, really well. For whatever reason, Brad Keller is not one of them. If you do want to fade Ramirez because he doesn't hit Brad Keller well, I'm okay with it. But again, this guy's averaging 16 fantasy points per game. There's so many ways he can get to his final total. His total is 8.5, so it is really high, pretty much as high as PrizePicks will set it. But I have him projected for 16 points because he's been playing so well. The park factor isn't great. Playing in Cleveland, I believe, is where they're playing. Yeah, in Cleveland. So that's okay. But overall, Brad Keller, not a great pitcher, not playing particularly well. The big thing with Ramirez, and I will show you guys what I've been looking at with this pitch data and why it's so important. If he throws Ramirez fastballs, he will get crushed. But if he can get him to chase that slider, that's where Ramirez has been particularly vulnerable this year. So that's where we're counting on Ramirez to lay off that slider where he hasn't performed overly well this season and attack that fastball that Keller's going to throw to him. So we'll see. At the end of the day, he can also get a steal. He's probably going to walk a ton if he does lay off that slider. And if, heaven forbid, he does throw him that fastball, he will probably be in good shape. So going to Austin Hayes, just taking a quick look at his pitch data, he does hit 625 against, who is he up against today? Robbie Ray, the former Cy Young winner, Robbie Ray, who has come crashing down in my opinion, very predictable fashion. Excellent with the Blue Jays, goes to Seattle, gets that bag, and stinks now. Now, he will throw a lot of pitches. They will let him go deep into games, but he is allowing a ton of fantasy points, as you can see by his pitch factor. Austin Hayes only has a PrizePicks line of 5.5 and is averaging 9.7 fantasy points per game over his last 14 days. Does hit 625 against Robbie Ray, 1.5 OPS. He's going to be the guy who tanks Robbie Ray's slider, and that's very important because the fastball he has not been as good against, but if Robbie Ray tries to throw him that slider, Hayes will probably be all over it with an excellent pitch factor up against that slider. So I do really like Austin Hayes in this matchup, especially if he bats cleanup for the Orioles. While we don't love the Orioles overall, it's important to note that Cedric Mullins also plays very well against Robbie Ray. So there's multiple players, Trey Mancini, another big righty bat that they can throw at Robbie Ray to make his day very difficult. And I think Austin Hayes will be the primary beneficiary in this matchup. And then talk about Jock Peterson, who is averaging almost 12 fantasy points per game over his last 14 days, up against Aaron Nola, a pretty damn good pitcher, if I'm being honest. And the park factor playing in Philly is not great. We'll see what the weather's like in Philly today. I live in Toronto. It's a little bit rainy outside, so there may be a chance for delay in New York and in Cleveland and Philly. So do check the weather before you place all these bets to see where they're going. But again, still 76% edge to the over. His history is okay, hits 267. That's fine. But I think more importantly, Mike Yastrzemski also hits Aaron Nola very, very well. So again, if you're batting behind that guy who's potentially going to be on base very often, I do like Jock Peterson in this matchup. His PrizePicks line's only 6. Nothing crazy. It's not the 7.5 that Goldschmidt has or the 8.5 that Ramirez has. So I do believe that all 4 of these guys have a great shot of going over today. As you can see, I have them projected to go way over. So I am all in. I'd probably be mix and matching these 4 guys. If you're hesitant on Hayes or Peterson, I understand, but I think that Goldschmidt and Ramirez are both very good plays. You see the P-Val factor very high for Ramirez, the pitch factor very high. Same thing, park factor, pitch factor even, and 4.8 pitch factor for Yu Darvish versus Paul Goldschmidt, and I can show you guys that one. If we didn't quite look at it, he hits all those pitches well. The only one he doesn't hit that well is the curveball, but overall, he's pretty much going to be good against Yu Darvish. Darvish throws a lot of pitches. He's a great pitcher, but he hasn't been the best at limiting hard contact and limiting fantasy points, and that could lead a lot of good things to happen for Paul Goldschmidt. So overall, these are the 4 guys I'm targeting today, and as always, if you tail, give them hell, and if we fail, do not bail. I'll be back tomorrow dropping more plays in MLB for the month of June. We are finally here. Summer's heating up. Hopefully the ball is flying out there, but I'll be back tomorrow. I'm out. Peace.